What's going on, everybody? Today's another video on Metaphor. This one is like a beginner's tips and just stuff I wish I had known when I first started. I'm not gonna show a whole lot of gameplay. I have other videos if you want to see gameplay. Like I said, this is mostly just for helpful hints. First thing we'll talk about is Galga. She is very useful. You'd be surprised how useful she is.
It's time.
You can hit triangle and then she'll show you your quests. And if you have I've done that 'cause on mine out, but if you have any supporters you can talk to, you can click on it there and it'll go to them in the list, and then you can warp straight to them. Another thing that's useful about her is her face sight. In dungeons, any of the crawl spaces that you can crawl through will actually be highlighted green. And not only that, but she can help you locate mimics as well. And when you start running into mimics, the mimic chests, you can do face light, and if the chest has a red outline, it's a mimic. It's got a white outline, it's a regular chest. On the topic of mimics, you can use the merchant skills.
What now?
The money skills for the merchant and the tycoon. The gold attack. You can use that on a mimic, and normally mimics get 2 turns. Well, if you use one of those gold attacks on a mimic, it'll waste one of its turns, and it'll say something about how it's drawn to money, or it's obsessed with the glimmer of gold, or some shit. Another thing her face light can do is there's like, I think there's 3 dungeons that have the gargoyle enemies in them, the little statues. They can also be an enemy. Well, the face sight will reveal which ones are enemies. Normally they don't have an outline. When you do the face sight, it doesn't do anything. But if it's an enemy, it'll have an outline. Another thing I want to talk about, you can get the masks. When you get the masked dancer and the summoner, you can make new masks and stuff. This guy right here, see, he sells masks. The masks he sells is different depending on what day it is, but he only sells you the masks if you get your the wrong button. If you get, where's Alonzo? If you get Alonzo's leveled up. He also gets you discounts in the magic shops as well. But when you're friends with him, that dude will start selling masks. Early on in the game, I would recommend leveling up 2 people first. Get Stroll to at least level 3 to unlock the Swordmaster, and then get it to level 12, and you'll have I think it's Heavy Slash or something, but it does heavy slash damage to all enemies. And that would be a great damage dealer early on. It's kind of expensive MP wise, but it's very useful for cutting down mobs pretty fast. As long as they don't resist slash damage, it'll cut right through them. It'd be the first attack that you get that does nearly 1,000 damage, and it hits everything too. That's another thing about it. It hits everything. Another person you want to level up fast is Maria, because she not only teaches the healer, but she also gives you more experience. See, that increases post-battle experience. And then she also makes it where you can cook on the gauntlet runner and not use a day. Another thing she does, there's the other one that increases post-battle experience, but she makes it where you make an additional dish whenever you cook. So definitely level her up. If you're worried about money, level up Vegeta, because she'll give you discounts for the different stores. And if you buy igniters, she'll let you shop in her igniter store, and she gradually adds more igniters to her stock as you level her up. Plus, when you get her to like 6 or 7, she'll start randomly between the days. You'll get like $15,000 from her. Another one you want to do is be sure you level up the healer to 12 for more. Oh no, it's 10. When I look. Or is that it? That's the gunner. Yeah, get the healer to 10. The reason being is because once you do that, you can be in the main menu and just hit triangle, and you can change up your archetypes. Until you do that, you have to actually go to more and get in and do it that way. So it's a pain in the ass. As far as Norris is concerned, whenever you start his, he'll have you collect relics for him. He'll give you a side quest for collecting relics. And whenever you go in a dungeon, if the dungeon has a relic in it, Gallica will scan. When you first enter the dungeon, she'll scan and say she found something, and it'll say that there's a relic in that dungeon. And it'll actually mark, whenever you enter the dungeon proper, it'll actually have a red diamond objective marker on not just the boss or the objective, but also for the relic. And they even took it a step further in that if for some reason you forget that there was a relic in there, like sometimes I'll go straight to the boss, not intentionally, but I'll go straight to the boss and then warp back to the entrance and forget that there was a relic in there. Where if you go to leave, she'll interrupt your leaving and say, hey, there's a relic in there you didn't get. Are you sure that you want to leave? Barden's is pretty good to upgrade. He gives you the commander, but his is pretty good upgrade because I think 6 or 7 he starts sending you items, kind of like Vegeta does money, except for his is items, and usually they're decent items. Another thing I would recommend doing is steal stuff often, because you can get pretty good stuff from stealing. And in most cases, especially whenever you're fighting the people on the cannons on the gauntlet runner, usually whatever you steal from them, they'll also drop too. So it's a good way of getting 2 of certain items. If you want to farm items or experience or something in a particular dungeon, all you have to do is either leave just leave out of the dungeon, not actually leave to the map, but just exit out. Or you can be at the save point for the boss. You can just go to Academia and then exit straight out of Academia, and that'll reset all the enemies. And if for some reason, if you're doing that, and or you clear the whole dungeon except for the boss, and you find yourself without magic, you can equip the mage class. Equip the mage class, and it has this passive magic recovery. Every time you kill an enemy on the overworld, or you stun an enemy, it gives you 1 MP. So if you can one-shot all the enemies, but you need to get your magic built up for the boss or whatever, just go through the dungeon killing all the stuff, and it takes a while, because like I said, it's only 1 MP per kill, but do that and you can eventually build your magic back up. Maybe not all the way, but enough to where you can get over about the boss. Another thing, if you kill the enemies without them damaging you, you get extra experience. If I'm not mistaken, the experience and the money is a quarter of what the total is you get. So like say you got 100 experience, well you would get an additional 25 on top of that. But the archetype experience and the mag is actually half of what the total would be. So instead of getting 25, you get 50 for it. So it definitely pays to wipe them out before they get a chance to go. Make sure you make good use of the front and back rows. Like if you're using a mage, there's no reason to be in the front row, because as long as you're using magic to attack, you're gonna do full damage. Or if you have a ranged attacker like the gunner or whatever, you do full damage from the back row. Another thing, be sure to try to take advantage of the synthesis stuff. That was originally in Digital Devil Saga, but they have it in this game too. The reason being, if you have, say, 2 mages, well, you only have single target spells, but you can use synthesis and you'll get the multi-target spells. And they're really not that expensive. I mean, it is, you consider it's for 2 people paying for it, but I mean, overall, they're really not that expensive. So it's definitely worth taking advantage of. And don't forget that there are I forget about them all the time, which is what made me want to bring this up. The items that can buff, like Venom. Like you'll have plenty of items that do attacks, or can stun, or status effect, or like that reset talismans. It removes all debuffs. That removes all buffs. And you have some that like that decreases defense for 3 turns. Don't forget that you've got those items. There's really not much point in storing them, because you'll get plenty of them for the most part. Another thing I would point out, if you're wondering about this game, and I should have said this first, but if you're wondering if you don't want to look at a guide, if you're wondering if you need to look at a guide on this game, like whether or not, because like with Persona, if you wanted to max out everybody's bonds or whatever, you kind of had to plan ahead on how you wanted to do stuff, or follow a guide, because you weren't going to be able to do it all in one shot unless you just got really lucky with the way you spent your time. Well, in this game you have plenty of time. My first playthrough, well, what I do is, and I recommend you do this as well, is before you start doing any side quests or any dungeons, the town that you're in, get all the bounties you can get all the side quests you can get, go ahead and get all of them, double check that you got all of them, and then do your side quests in the dungeons and do the bounties. What I usually do is I will see if there's any follower that I can spend time with, and if it tells me that there's nobody I can spend time with, then I'll do a dungeon or a bounty. And then once I get done with that, I'll do the same thing. See if there's somebody I can talk to. If there's not, do a dungeon or a bounty. When I first played through, I actually did all the dungeons and bounties back to back. I finished all those first, and then I did the followers. And I think whenever I finished the game, I had done all the dungeons, all the side quests except for one, which I'll get to that in a second, and all that, and I still had, I think I was 12 days free. That includes leveling up the virtues and all of that. I think I had 10 to 12 days that I had free at the end of the game that I could do whatever I wanted to on. And that was with no guide. That was just guessworking my way through playing it. So you definitely have time. You don't need to have a guide. The only thing I would suggest having a guide for is if you're trying to get all the trophies. There's a few things that are missable, like the one for reading the books. There's a book that you get that's like, normally every time you get a new character, they add a book to your bookshelf in the the Gauntlet Runner. Well, there's one book that you get from one of the candidates. I think his name is Jen. Whenever you first get to here,
All right.
where's it at? Can't remember. There it is. When you first get to Brawlhaven, I want to say it's like the second day, like after you've stayed at the inn. It seems like it's the second day. You can go to this fountain right here, and there'll be a dude standing right here. He's one of the candidates. His name is Jin, if I'm not mistaken. He'll be standing there. If you talk to him, he'll give you a book, and that's one of the books you have to read. That's really the only one that's missable. The other thing that's missable is talking with, doing the debate with the candidates. As like when you get to Martera on a certain date, there'll be I think there's 3 candidates that can show up. Each one shows up on a specific date, so if you miss it the first week, that's okay. The problem is they stop showing up whenever you leave that area. Whatever the deadline is for you to go to the next area, once you leave, they don't show up anymore. So if you miss, if you don't debate all of them before that deadline, you missed the chance to do it, and you'll miss that trophy. So I would recommend you look that up, get a guide or something that tells you the days you can do those, just so you don't make sure you don't miss them. Another thing is pay attention to the weather on here.
All right.
whenever the weather's bad, you don't get extra turns when you hit a weakness. And it's fucked up because the enemies can still get extra turns if they hit a weakness, but you can't get your extra turns if you hit a weakness. And oh, another thing I forgot about with the phase site, later on there's some dungeons that have warps. Particularly the last dungeon, it has doors that warp you to different places, but you can use the phase site and it will show you which way it's going to warp you. There'll be like a glow about it that goes a certain direction, and it's very obvious. You really can't miss it. And it'll show you which way it's going to warp you. And I think the warps in one of the other dungeons, the warps on the floor that'll warp you different places, I think those also show you which way it's going to warp you when you use the phase site. As far as money goes, money's really not a problem on this game. I mean, you don't even have to sell equipment. Just sell the stuff you get that's sellable, and just different things. You should have plenty of money. But if you want to save money, always shop on Idle's Day. And honestly, there's no reason to not shop. Not just wait until Idle's Day to shop, and you'll get a discount. And if you got Brigitte leveled up, you'll get an even bigger discount. Another thing, check your informants.
Alright, go.
Buy the information from the informants, because it'll give you information on what bosses are weak to, as well as some of them will enable you to buy certain items. There'll be like certain vendors that won't sell things to you, but if you have the information, they'll tell you what to say to them. And lastly, when you're on board the Gauntlet Runner, check the pantry and get you some stuff. If there's a particular thing you're wanting, like for instance, like I always want to get gauntlet shrooms, because they're the only way you can get them is either from that or from growing them in the little seed thing. You can save before you check it. You can save before you check it, and then check it, and then if it's not what you want, just reload your save and check it again. And you can do that till you get what you want. I mean, I'm sure there's limitations to that. I don't think you can get the Lord of the Lake or the Queen Honey or whatever it is. I don't think you can get those that way, but you can get the Gauntlet Shrooms that way. So I would definitely recommend that. Anyway, that's all I got. Just wanted to share that with you. Like I said, stuff that I would have liked to have known about when I first started. It's just some useful information. Anyway, I appreciate y'all watching. Please like and subscribe. Y'all take it easy. Have a good one.